Today I'm announcing that the Second Step Act will be focused on successful reentry and reduce unemployment for Americans with past criminal records, and that's what we started with. And I'm very proud to say that we're leading the way, but a lot of states are now following us. They're liking it, they're following us, and believe it or not, it's great for our people, it's great for the people that it so deeply affects, but you know, it's also great for the economy. We actually, it's hard to believe, we save a tremendous amount of money because people are coming out with these 40 and 50-year sentences for what you would consider to be everything serious, but not that serious. And they're getting out and they're working instead of being in prison. And we're saving hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and doing good at the same time. So that's sort of a rare occurrence. Our goal is to cut the rate to single digits within 5 years, and I think that's very, very achievable, especially if the economy keeps going the way it is, and we're going to keep it going the way it is. When we say hire American, we mean all Americans, including former inmates who have paid their debt to society, and they've paid it, in many cases, more than many of the people that we think of in our society. They have really paid their debt. Our bond with our fellow citizens is what stitches us together as one united nation, sharing one common destiny. We will achieve our goal by encouraging employers to adopt second chance hiring practices. That's a movement that's very, very in vogue, but when I say in vogue, it's something that's happening, and it's happening all over. And again, we're going to lead that way, but we are really being studied by a lot of great governors in a lot of states, and some are even with us. I don't want to let them get too far ahead of us because I would hate to have that down. We came in second. That's no good. But they really are. They're doing a fantastic job at the state level. We're also making it easier to work by removing obstacles to securing housing and driver's licenses and occupational licenses. And we're promoting mentorship through proven programs such as prison fellowship, something that people really find very important and very good. My administration is also supporting funding for reentry programs, including $88 million for Second Chance Act. You know that. And an estimated $28 million for the Pell Grants pilot program. Great, great program. And really, I think maybe more than anything else, we're now proving that we are a nation that believes in redemption. And to remind us what is possible, we're joined by a couple of people. First of all, is Pastor Scott here? Darrell Scott. Where's Pastor? Is he here someplace? He's worked so hard. I wanted to point him out. Darrell, thank you very much. Thank you, Darrell. Darrell Scott, thank you. Worked so hard. Every time I see him on television, I say, I don't want to go against that guy. He's a tough pastor, a good friend. And also a man who has served time in federal prison, but today he's with us, and he's now a professor of law at a place called Georgetown University, and one of his students happens to be my daughter, Tiffany. So Sean, hey, could I ask Sean to come up, please? Where is Sean? Sean, come up. Is my daughter okay as a student?
Yeah.
She better be.
It's fun to get to come back here. The one thing I realized when we worked on First Step was I got to meet a lot of really cool people, and we worked on this together, and I have become friends with so many of you. It's astonishing to me that so many people want to come work and help people that are in prison. Because when you're in prison, it feels very lonely, and there's not a lot of hope. And now there is more hope in the federal system than there ever has been at any point since I have been watching. And that's because of the work that everybody in this room has done. Thank you for helping people like me. Thank you for giving second chances. I think you are going to be rewarded in a way that you cannot even imagine when we get more people like my friend Matthew Charles, who, by the way, came over to our house last night for dinner. And you know what my daughter said? My 7-year-old daughter said, "Dad, how do I talk to Matthew? He's so famous." So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership on this. You have gotten things done that has taken decades of work from a lot of people in this room, and to see the fruits of your labor is just amazing to watch. Thank you, sir.
And the First Step Act proves that really, beyond almost anything we can think of, our country can achieve amazing breakthroughs when we put politics aside and put the interests of all Americans first. It's true, so true, especially in these times. If we work together for the common good, we can forge a future of even greater safety, opportunity, dignity, and freedom for the families across this incredible nation of ours. I want to again thank everybody in the room, everybody for being with us, so many leaders. I see Paula White, she's worked so hard on bringing the faith-based community together. And we're so hard. I want to thank you. Such a great job. And most importantly, I want to congratulate all of the people that have been so incredibly successful. They've left a place called prison, and as you said brilliantly, they arrived at the White House. They go from prison to the White House, and you know what? You're going to have an incredible future. Everybody in this room, you know who we're talking about, and the people standing on this stage, you're going to have an incredible future, and it's my honor, and it's the honor of all of the folks in this room that have helped to have been part of a process, I think, that's going to go down as a tremendous day in the history of our country. A lot of tremendous things are about to happen. Thank you very much.
When the president says he's going to close the border, that is a totally unrealistic boast on his part.
It certainly isn't a bluff. You can take the president seriously.
By anyone's definition, by any measure, right now we have a crisis at our southern border.
Why are we talking about closing the border? Because not for spite and not to try and undo what's happening, but to simply say, look, we need the people from the ports of entry to go out and patrol in the desert where we don't have any wall. We hate to say we told you so, but we told you so.
White House Chief of Staff there, other officials saying the president is serious about his threat to close the border and is serious about holding back on aid to 3 countries, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. If you take a look at the last year, or rather 2017 numbers on aid, 2018 data has not fully been reported, but 2017 data, Guatemala $241 million, Honduras $150 million, El Salvador $94 million. A lot of pushback from Democrats up on Capitol Hill saying that will not help Central America in their efforts, but let's bring in our panel. Chris Steyerwalt is politics editor here at Fox News, Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, and Mo Adleith, executive director of the Georgetown Institute of Politics. Chris, it sounds like the president is serious and maybe moving forward.
So that is a big matzo ball to put out there, because you're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars of economic consequences for the United States. It is an extreme move, but there is a crisis, and now everybody agrees that there's a crisis. Republicans and Democrats are now at a point, whether you want to call it a humanitarian crisis or a security crisis, everybody's there now, and I think we're getting to the point where something's got to give. Something's got to give here.
100,000 last month, possibly. Molly, the threat is real. Is it designed to get Mexico to get off the ball and do something from their point of view?
I think you're seeing all of these things where we've been providing aid to different countries, where we've been working with other countries, and we're not seeing enough in response. But to me, the bigger issue is what is happening in our own Congress. Congress didn't want to work on border wall or border security under threat of a shutdown. Fine. they still don't seem to want to do what they need to do, which is reform particular laws that are incentivizing this crisis that we have.
Asylum laws, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there are different loopholes that make it so that it's very reasonable to either come as an underage person or travel with an underage person that is leading to this crisis, and Congress absolutely needs to do something about it. And I hope that Chris is right, that everybody now realizes it's a crisis. It does seem like I think people thought this was just something Donald Trump was talking about, but now everybody realizes
to hear
really
President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary come out and say, hey, listen, it is a crisis, that is a moment.
Well, I think a lot of people agree that there is a humanitarian crisis at the border. And a lot of that is precipitated by abysmal conditions in these Central American countries, which is why people are seeking asylum here. Which is why I wonder if the sort of 1-2 punch that the president puts out there of closing the border and shutting down all aid might actually have a series of unintended consequences that would be devastating to the United States and the economic engine down there. All these small businesses along the border that are reliant on traffic through the legal points of entry are sweating today. But you also see that most of the programs in Central America he's talking about cutting are programs that are not direct aid to those governments. It's for programs, humanitarian programs, many of which are administered by the United States. What we need to do is actually improve conditions in these countries. That's the greatest disincentive to coming here seeking asylum, and I worry if this isn't cutting off our nose to spite our face.
It does seem that people are more willing to do some sort of proactive things like giving aid to other countries, so long as we actually have our border security handled, and that's the one thing that we really don't have a good handle on. And just having so many people flowing over unmanned entry points is not sustainable, and there just needs to be something. I mean, we can give money as long as we lock down
the question is, taking this money away, do we make it even worse? There are a lot of folks out there, experts who've been looking at these programs, who say we're actually bringing the number down, that it would be much worse if we weren't putting this aid into these U.S.-funded U.S. programs. And so I worry that it makes it even more challenging.
Chris, to your point, Mexico is the third largest trading partner with the U.S. Roughly $1.5 billion cross-border action every day.
Every day. And it is one of the most important global border crossings in the entire planet. This is a crucial place because, of course, one of the things is whether it's NAFTA or YMCA, whatever you call it, the amount of trade that flows across that border every day is mind-boggling. And the way of life down there, it is the busiest border crossing in the world for a reason.
All right, turning now to the efforts on Capitol Hill to subpoena the full unredacted Mueller report. How do you see this, Molly?
Right. I think everyone wants to see what's in the Mueller report, and everybody wants to see as much as possible. I personally would like to see everything in there, all the underlying documents. But I think what you're seeing on the Hill are people are trying to sort of salvage what they had going for many years, which was this Russia conspiracy theory, and learning that there were no indictments coming out of the Mueller report dealing with any American, much less anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign, for criminal collusion with Russia or for obstruction of justice is a huge deflating thing for what's happening on the Hill. As they get the information on the Mueller report, let's hope that we also get information about how this conspiracy theory started, how it got seeded throughout the federal government, how the investigations, which there were multiple ones against the Trump campaign, got started. We have some information. We need much more. How many wiretaps were levied? What was going on with human informants? I'm all for transparency, but let's make sure we get the transparency on the actual
But the likelihood of another special counsel, pretty small.
I don't think so. I think, in fact, it might be one of the only ways that you find out who all was involved, how they behaved. What's most important right now is for people to have a restored trust in the FBI and other law enforcement agencies, and you need accountability to get there.
Mo?
Well, I think we know how it all got started. That's pretty well documented. George Papadopoulos was out boozing with an agent of another government and started.
That's such a ridiculous theory that we know it has to be more than this.
It really isn't. But look, I think the fact that the administration, that the Attorney General is going this long without giving us anything, without showing the full transparency that we have been promised from the beginning, without showing it just allows the administration to control the narrative as long as it possibly can. And what you see, I think, are Democrats who, may feel like they've lost the narrative a bit, saying we're not going to let you have the entire narrative either. So let us see everything.
What we're missing, Mo, is that in the letter that the Attorney General sends, he points points out that Bob Mueller is working alongside him on the redactions. It's not like Attorney General Barr is just concocting this summary on his own. He's saying, here's what I can and cannot put out. I'm going to put out as much as I can.
But at the same time, there really doesn't need to be a prolonged delay, and I think Democrats are trying to pressure them as much as possible for fear that there would be a long delay. So I'm on board with let us see everything. It's one area where Molly and I absolutely see eye to eye on it. Let's see everything here. Let's see and answer some of the questions that remain unanswered, at least in public conversation, around obstruction. That was left inconclusive, and so let us take a look at it so that we can figure out what next steps, if any, are warranted.
We'll follow every angle.